What's going on, YouTube family? This is your boy, Fight Picks, and tonight, excuse the darkness, I'm in my car, driving home. Just want to do a quick, well, not a quick, but a comprehensive analysis on who I'm picking to win UFC 205 main card, Conor or Eddie Alvarez versus Conor McGregor. Just a heads up on, the two fighters. Conor McGregor, the 145-pound division champion, defeated Jose Aldo at UFC 198 in 13 seconds. Eddie Alvarez, the 155-pound champion, defeated Rafael dos Anjos inside of one round by TKO. And they're getting ready to fight at UFC MSG. It's a pretty big deal. It's the first time the UFC is in New York. And as a New Yorker, it's pretty exciting for me too. I'm recording this on Monday, the day before the elections, and to be honest with you, it shouldn't be, but this event eclipses the damn election. But let's get into it. So, we have Eddie Alvarez. I would say he's an all-around fighter. Decent striking. Some would say his striking is a little bit sloppy. I disagree. He does have the tendency to loop some of his shots. I think that just comes with being a shorter fighter. When you fight longer and taller guys, you tend to rely on the overhand rights because that's a very good punch to use against taller opponents. It's a harder punch to see for a taller guy. But I think he has decent boxing. I watched him do a little bit of pad work. He has a very crisp double jab, something you don't really see in the UFC too much. And, it comes from his background in Philly. Very good wrestler. Wrestled in high school. From what I heard, he came from a very good wrestling program in Philly. Okay kicker. Doesn't really have fancy kicking technique. Definitely not in the realm of Anthony Pettis or Anderson Silva. But he has the low kick at his disposal, and I think it's effective. The low kick is, it's not a technically taxing technique. It requires more so in shin conditioning. I think he has the bone density and enough years using it to do damage. And yeah, this guy pretty much is dangerous everywhere. On his feet, on the ground. Not the best jiu-jitsu, but sure as hell it's good enough. Better than Conor McGregor's. Conor McGregor, Mr. McGregor, Mystic Mac, very good striker. More so his boxing. He has very good hands. A killer left hand, southpaw. Precision striker. Linear technique, crisp boxing. Has kicks. They're flashy in my opinion, but they aren't too effective. I think his kicks are probably, he would need to be a John Jones type of guy where his kicks are more for distance, more so than actual damage. When he uses them in that capacity, they're more effective. But he's not a Jose Aldo where you're gonna go out limping because your legs are finished. I know he did use the low kick against Nate Diaz, but Nate Diaz isn't the most athletic 155 pounder or 170 pounder. He's very flat-footed because of his his wide boxing type stance, and he is very vulnerable to the low kick. Not like Eddie Alvarez, who has a thicker, meatier foot that can absorb strikes. I know he did succumb to Cowboy Cerrone, but that was earlier in his career. And Cowboy Cerrone's low kicks are far beyond Conor McGregor's. I mean, just so you understand, Conor hurt his damn foot doing those low kicks. And if you ever done martial arts, while low kicks might be technically less demanding, they are very heavy on conditioning. It takes years to build up the bone density that you could throw those kicks with reckless abandon, like an RDA. Even RDA, with extensive Muay Thai background that he had, he broke a bone in his foot. I mean, you don't know pain until you either have a clash of shins or you kick someone's elbow. It's extremely painful. And if you don't have that conditioning, man, you're going to break something and it's going to hurt. A good guy, for example, who has really awesome conditioning in his legs, Edson Barbosa. That guy can kick you anywhere with reckless abandon. It doesn't matter how it lands. He just puts it up there. When guys know when they don't feel it and they have the bone density and they can do it. Conor McGregor is not that guy, so he has to be more precision space striking with his kicks. He can't throw them in reckless abandon and at full power. The fact that he got injured during that Nate Diaz fight from the low kicks is testament to that. All right, so I pretty much broke down. Wait, they didn't get into Conor McGregor's grappling and whatnot. Conor McGregor, calling it what it is, weak ground game. Wrestling isn't the best. His ground game isn't the best. He has a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but I don't think he deserved that brown belt. I saw the fight with Chad Mendes. Chad isn't even belted, passed his guard, no problem. I think it was about twice. Or the one time that he did it, it was just too damn easy for someone with a brown belt against a non-belted opponent in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu to pass your guard like that. He just practically gave the guard up. And then we did see him get choked out by Nate Diaz. I mean, gave his back up, didn't even hand fight, and got choked out with the rear naked, right? And he lost twice. The two losses he had on his record prior to fighting Nate Diaz came from submissions, from guys in Ireland that no one knows about. So I'm going to say his ground game is suspect. But as far as the two guys go, where the upper hand is, Conor McGregor definitely has the boxing advantage over Eddie Alvarez. Alvarez have the advantage over the wrestling and the conditioning. This guy can go 5 rounds. There's some people saying that he wears tired too. I mean, I don't see that. I mean, does he diminish from round 1 to 5? Yeah. I mean, who doesn't? But it's still a very formidable level of conditioning that he brings into round 5. He doesn't look like, oh my God, I want to give up because I'm so tired, the way McGregor does. So I mean, you can pretty much guess who I'm going for this fight. I'm going with Eddie Alvarez, and I'm gonna tell you why. Both these guys have weaknesses, right? As far as them facing each other. Conor McGregor, his weakness is his lack of proper conditioning in the later rounds. Outside of round 2, he fades. I mean, he fades in the later parts of round 2. And rounds 3 to 5, I know he did look a little bit better against Nate Diaz, but it was still suspect. There were a lot of moments during that fight where he was just so tired, man, that he resorted to retreat. And I'm not knocking him for that. That's a smart thing to do. If I'm in a fight and I'm tired, shit, I'm trying to buy time, especially if there's a bell, right? But it must be said that Nate Diaz is not the most explosive fighter. And if Conor McGregor was in that fight and under those conditions, and he fought someone else more explosive, the couple of times that he was on the fence trying to catch a breather, or running off to the side, Any other guy with decent condition in the UFC would have exploded on Conor McGregor. It would have been TKO, right? So that's his weakness. His weakness is his conditioning, and of course, his ground game, right? Eddie's weakness is sometimes his tendency to sometimes loop his shots. I did say that I think his striking, his boxing is decent, but against a guy like Conor McGregor who likes to throw things straight down the middle, you tend to intercept guys that loop shots that way, and then you catch them swinging. It's nice, KO. Conor McGregor, if he touches you and he catches you, I mean, he's liable to knock you out, man. He just has that power. So that's Eddie's weakness. He has to watch out for that counter left hand, or even the hook, because Conor got it in the hook too. We saw when he knocked out Jose Aldo with that hook in mid-action, right? So that's Eddie's weakness. Now, both of them have shown to be disciplined fighters as far as recognizing that they have a weakness and then working away from that weakness and playing to their strength. We saw it with Conor's cardio management and the what's the word I'm looking for? The apprehension about engaging in a ground game with Nate Diaz in the second fight. He was smart about it. He knocked Nate down. He could have ran over there and started trying to ground and pound. But nope, he realized this guy is an elite black belt in the UFC. I don't need to tangle with him. I don't need to lose energy because I'm not going to knock him out. I can't knock him out standing up. I'm sure as heck not going to knock him out on the floor. And I'm sure as heck not going to get a submission, right? So he realized that's his weakness. And that's a smart thing, because people that refuse to recognize their weakness tend to get themselves into traps. Eddie Alvarez, he also recognized his own weakness. We saw this in the Pettis fight. He realized that Pettis has the more precise striking and the more dynamic striking. And he decided to employ a grind game against Pettis, where he went for takedowns and he pressed him up against the cage, made it a real ugly dogfight. Right? So he recognized his weakness. So what it really comes down to me is who has the greater ability to stay away from their weakness, because I'm expecting both guys to go in there trying to exploit the weaknesses. Both these guys are smart. Conor McGregor is a very smart guy, and Eddie Alvarez, I know he's not the most eloquent of speakers, but you could tell based on the way he does things and when in the substance of what he's saying, he's a very intelligent guy and a very disciplined guy. He's not going to go in there to try to make this a boxing or a striking match. He'll strike when he has to, but he's going to push to his strength. And his strength is his grappling and his cardio. He's going to make this a grind game where Conor McGregor is pushed up against the fence, or Conor McGregor is on the ground eating ground and pounds, or he's going for a submission attempt. Who can impose their will? Back to my point, who can stay away from their weakness, right? I'm going to go with Eddie again. Eddie can avoid getting in a striking match with Conor. I don't feel like Conor could avoid getting in a wrestling match with Eddie Alvarez. Plain and simple. It's not happening. We saw what happened with Chad Mendes. And yes, I know Conor McGregor won that fight, but Chad Mendes, for that, I would say 3/4 of those, of 7 minutes or 8 minutes of those 10 minutes, because they fought for 2 rounds, right? So about 3/4 of that fight, I would say. He, in my opinion, dominated. He took him down about 4 times in 2 rounds. Ground and pound, pass guard. And when they stood up, he was landing some pretty big overhand rights, man. Flush. I mean, Conor did hit him a couple of times, but he was able to take McGregor down 4 times in 2 rounds, without proper conditioning. I believe if that guy was conditioned properly, he would have stopped McGregor, no doubt. But Mendes was tired from the get-go. You could see it from round 1. but he still managed for that time to lay it on Conor. Unfortunately for Mendes, he succumbed to his condition and got up, and McGregor landed that left hand, not to knock him out. That's something you should note. He didn't get knocked out. Mendes basically quitting there. I can't blame the guy. I mean, you don't know that feeling of fighting just to breathe and stay on your feet while fighting off another opponent. It's just not a pretty feeling, and can't knock him for it. He wanted out. Fighters aren't supposed to do that, but shit, this guy took this fight, and he knows he cannot keep on taking these blows. He lost the battle, but he lived to fight the war, right? That type of scenario. But anyway, that's what it boils down to. McGregor cannot stop Eddie Alvarez from imposing his will. I'm expecting Eddie Alvarez to come out. There's going to be a little bit of a feeling out process. Eddie's going to watch his distance, right? McGregor, he might land here and there. The jab, maybe a hand, it's going to be deflected a little bit. I'm not expecting McGregor to land clean out the gate, because Eddie just won't give it to him. And when the opening happens, is either McGregor's going to get pushed up onto the gate, or he's going to be laid out flat. Not a knockout, in terms of a takedown, and Eddie's going to start doing his dirty work. This is going to be a war of attrition, and I'm expecting McGregor to really go out either at the end of the second or the third. At most, it might go 4 rounds, but I believe Conor is going to succumb to his cardio. There's no way in hell that you could have 5-round championship level cardio against a guy like Eddie Alvarez, who really is a pressure fighter. And in order to mitigate that, you need to move around. So the problem just exacerbates itself. You're bad on cardio and you need movement. Where are you going to rest? You can't take Eddie Alvarez down and rest on top of him that way. It's not happening. He's not going to do that. And if he's moving around in the ring a lot, he's going to exacerbate his cardio. So Conor's only chance here is to land something flush. And I don't think that's going to happen, because Eddie Alvarez is too damn disciplined, and he have too much to gain to be undisciplined in this fight. So I'm calling this for Eddie Alvarez. I'm not a real big believer in, Mr. Mac, the hype train. I think he's an awesome fighter, but I don't think he's all that he's hyped up to be. And I think the Diaz fight speaks volumes about his skill set. Nate Diaz is a decent fighter, but he's not the best 155-pounder. I like the guy. He's entertaining, but he's missing a lot from his game, and he still managed to beat McGregor in the first fight. And it went to a controversial decision the second fight. I actually scored it for Diaz. Conor McGregor won 2 rounds, the first 2. Diaz won the last 3. But I guess at some point the judges seen it the other way. I believe it might have been either the 4th or 3rd round. That was probably a toss-up for them. But it's okay. I could see how it could have went that way, but I scored it for Diaz. So that's my pick. I'm going with Eddie Alvarez for UFC 205 at the Garden. I'm calling it for round... I'm going to go ahead and call it for round 3. Round 3 by TKO. Alright? I'm going to do some more videos and some fighter picks and get some better lighting. Alright? It's your boy, Fight Picks. Out.